Andrew Jessup versus Carlos Fontes. We see you, Ben. How's it going? You got a tough matchup coming up. Frank Skarren knows what he's doing in this mirror.
Yeah. The Affinity mirror is something of a crapshoot.
You know, among experienced pilots, yes. I always feel like Affinity, there's this gate where it's like you must be this, they have this many games played to ride the ride, and if one of these two players hasn't, then it's not a crapshoot at all.
Yeah. If it's either of them, I'll tell you one thing, it's not Frank Skarren.
Right. Jessup, a turn 2 Llanowar Elves.
Right on time.
Yeah. Got 2 copies of Woodland Cemetery. Didn't actually have the base set to go with them. On Fontes' side, we see Soulscar Mage into Heart of Kirin.
Pretty powerful start, especially if you follow up with a Chain Whirler and crew the Heart. Put some pressure on Jessup to have a big turn.
Steelleaf Champion and 3rd Woodland Cemetery for Andrew Jessup. Need a basic.
The Llanowar Elf surviving kind of a big deal because of this mana base.
Yeah.
Got the Steelleaf Champion, quote, on time.
Yeah, it just shows the difference. But like, if these are blooming marshes, the entire game would have been a turn quicker. But it still may be fine. Goblin Chain Whirler from Fontes will, however, shoot down Llanowar Elves.
That gets to crew the Heart. That is a big deal.
Oh, and the Soulscar Mage is in play, so that's a permanent -1 counter on Steelleaf Champion.
Oh yeah, that interaction, actually, Soulscar Mage is one of the hugely important cards for the red deck in a matchup like this. Much of the removal does not actually deal with Jessup's threats, but if you can put these -1/-1 counters on them, that really slows Jessup down.
I can tell you from playing decks like Constrictor and Green against red decks, when you're testing a lot of this, the reason why red is so strong in these matchups is that when you're a creature deck, Goblin Chain Whirler is just a nightmare. Like, nothing sizes up well against it.
Well, Steelleaf Champion usually does, but as a 4/3...
It's 4/3 now, it doesn't.
As a 4/3, that's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes when those two, those two they have a game going. What you want to get out of the green deck is get Galta down. Once Galta's in play, it's fantastic.
Right. It takes quite a few red spells to really put the hurt on a 12/12 creature.
Right. No, the way they'll fight over is try to make it so you never have enough power to cast the Galta.
Right.
Llanowar Elves from Andrew. And a pass, no more lands. This does not look great for the Jessups here.
Plan for the Steelleaf Champion seems to be to try to block or deter the Soulscar Mage.
Sure.
It's not a good blocker on the Chain Whirler. Potentially, Jessup could be at the ready with a Blossoming Defense or two.
Yeah, that must be the thought, right? Otherwise, you'd have seen an attack there.
Right. Yeah, given just the elf being deployed here, feels like Jessup does not have much in the way of permanence to follow up. So I wouldn't be surprised to see at least one Blossoming Defense. Ether Hub is the land for Fontes. Now up to 4 mana. Chandra Torch of Defiance will be a great spell this turn. See if he has that. We'll start with Kari Zev.
Yeah.
So currently just the Chain Whirler able to crew the Heart. Another 1-mana creature would combine with the other 2 to do it.
And here's Bomat Courier. All right, so the 3 of them, if you get a robot, a pirate, and a wizard, when they enter together, they can fly this ship.
What an uncanny squad.
It's like a Saturday morning cartoon.
I'd watch that cartoon. That might actually just
a robot, wizard, and pirate. That's a great
favorite cartoon.
Who can fly this boat?
Actually, I'm gonna go work on a screenplay. I think. Suddenly feeling very inspired.
Back to Andrew's side. Looks like we may have another. Well, actually, Thrashing Brontodon.
That one's pretty good.
Yeah.
As it turns off this Heart of Kirin, that flying attacker is a big deal.
Andrew down to 10 right now. He hasn't yet to make any inroads on Carlos's life total. But if he can keep building his board, we are now at the point, there's 8 power in play. Galt is a possibility.
He'll need that one pretty quickly if he has access to it, as Carlos's board is getting very wide. The Steelleaf Champion also currently vulnerable to 3 damage spells because of that Soulscar Mage Chain Whirler interaction. It just has 3 toughness. That is part of the job of the red player in this matchup, is managing your opponent's ability to cast Ghalta.
Right.
Might not be the most inviting way to spend your turn, just taking care of the Steel Leaf champion that's not attacking you and not really blocking well in the first place, but stopping Ghalta is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, there's a nice thing. If he attacks with Heart of Kiran, Andrew will either have to go to 6 or lose the Brontodon. With Brontodon gone, Ghalta's unlikely to happen. Fontas will cycle Canyon Slough.
Tyler Berry, come on up to the right-hand side of the main event stage.
Fontas on 2 main deck Glorybringers this weekend. That would have been a nightmare for Jessup if that showed up this turn. Starting on cycling the Slough means that at least that's not happening.
Pia Nalar. Now, if this is actually relevant, if we want to have a way to break through this board, Pia Nalar is a great tool.
Yeah, you can sacrifice some artifacts, make it so creatures can't block. It's another flying creature in that Thopter token.
Yeah, don't mind this at all. Get some damage in.
Pia plus Thopter, also a formidable crew for the Heart of Kiran. Worthy crew, rather.
And it'll be Thopter Courier and Soulscar Mage in the Heart of Kiran this time. It'll attack in. Andrew goes to either we'll have to go to 6 or lose the Brontodon. And it appears our cartoon crew, their boat has crashed into a dinosaur.
Well, the big mistake that the crew made was replacing the pirate with a Thopter. That you lose a lot of the diversity in the cast. It's just 2 robots.
Yeah, and then how would you deal with a dinosaur in that situation?
Right.
Scrap Heap Scrounger, Scrap Heap Scrounger for Andrew. This is a fine card, but certainly not the board state where you'd want this.
This is also one of the matchups where Scroungers at its weakest.
Yeah.
Jessup very much more interested in blocking than attacking.
Doesn't really, just Chain Whirlers here too, you know, it's meh. And we'll see if the Carlos can find 10 damage in here. Another Bomat Courier, so 3 artifacts. He could sacrifice 2 of them to no-block the entire team. Counter damage here. 3 off Chain Whirler, 3 off Karizev, 2 off Pianalar, 2 off attackers. He has 10 if he no-blocks the team.
Yeah, his board is just so wide that just attacking with a bunch of stuff already makes sense.
Cards under both Couriers, Ragavan into play. See if he uses that PNLR before blocks. Doesn't really have to either. And Steel Leaf Champion cannot block this turn. PNLR's ability will be used. Blossoming Defense from Andrew. That was his last card. Steve. And again, no blocks from Steel Leaf Champion. So, only land where elves can block. We have an attack, it looks like 4. So let's see. It's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage.
Yeah, that old Soulscar Mage staying home. Not sure why.
Well, let's say it wouldn't be lethal even if it was there, so.
Yeah, because of the Blossoming Defense.
Right. So Andrew will make the block on Chain Whirler. Which means 6 damage comes in. Andrew drops to 4. Just 1 blocker here. He'll swing the Scroungers, put Carlos to 14.
Yeah, because they can't block, but pretty easy for Carlos to present lethal in the following turn.
And here's Ronus. Ronus is online, thanks to Steel Leaf Champion. So 2 blockers, but that's not going to be enough.
No. Thopter alone, because a PNLR can already connect for 3.
Right, so 3 in the air, 5 other attackers, 2 blockers. Yeah, that math checks out.
Well, now the Thopter can just be lethal. 6th land played there, and everything else.
However he wants to do this works.
Yeah. Plenty of ways to combine those to amount to 4. That's not hard.
So, Carlos Fontas swings for the win, and that's the first game into the books. He's up 1-0 on Andrew Jessup.
All right, so we'll take it to the sideboard. For Andrew Jessup, We have 4 Vinemare, 2 Duress, 2 Nissel Vitaforce, 2 Hour of Glory, 2 Vivian Reeds, an Aethersphere Harvester, a Greenbelt Rampager, and a Thrashing Brontodon. There's definitely some stuff in here that suggests he's trying to make up some ground in the matchup.
Yeah, so I asked him, talking with him about Vinemare, I said, what do you board in Vinemare against? And he very kind of slyly answered, what don't you board in Vinemare against? This isn't a black deck, so it doesn't... It can be blocked. I guess it does match up pretty poorly against Goblin Chain Whirler.
Yeah, I don't like Vinemare in this matchup very much. The 2 Hour of Glories are probably in the sideboard very much because of Hazoret the Fervent.
Okay.
So if that one's on your radar, you're going to reach for those. The Aethersphere Harvester, certainly against these red decks. Gaining the life, having the flyer, that all matters a lot.
Yeah. I don't mind another Thrashing Brontodon. 3/4 is a good size. There are artifacts.
Yep.
I'm interested about having Greenbelt Rampager in the sideboard for Andrew. It's his 4th copy. 3 in... I understand only 3 in the main. It's typically not the card you play out of the board, though.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird, but I think it's exactly what you're saying. It's a 3/4. He just
Okay.
wants some more 3/4s to get online, and this one can technically be on the battlefield on turn 2 if everything lines up.
Yeah, it's a 3/4 for 3, which I'm already into, so I actually expect to board it in. Absolutely.
Right.
On Carlos's side, a lot of times you'll see them go bigger in this matchup. He has 4 Duress, 2 Abrade, 2 Chandra's Defeat, 2 Magma Spray, 2 Rekindling Phoenix, a Doomfall, a Glorybringer, and that is his 3rd Glorybringer, and then a 3rd Unlicensed Disintegration.
Disintegration is the best card by a fairly wide margin.
Yeah.
You're going to have some difficulty hitting the things you want to hit with Doomfall, so I'd probably be off of that.
Yeah, they are a Llanowar Elves deck.
Right. The 2 Rekindling Phoenixes are great, though.
Yeah, flying is difficult to deal with for Mono Green side. Really, the way Andrew answers Phoenix is to just hope that his hand can ignore it.
Yeah. Phoenix is just great at blocking or attacking in the matchup is really the selling point about it. No matter what it's doing, it's going to do it excellently.
I have to agree there. This is a side where I like Carlos's. I think he's a slight favorite in game 1, and I don't really see that changing here in this post-board games.
Yeah, Jessup's upgrades are fairly minor. Again, things do hinge fairly significantly on whether Carlos draws Soulscar Mage or not.
Yeah.
That's really the biggest deal. That extra unlicensed, that helps mitigate that a little bit. You have another catch-all removal spell. But actually permanently shrinking Jessup's creatures is a huge way to gain an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, as is with most creature matchups, right, his key card is Goblin Chain Whirler, and then when you pair it with Soulscar, just that Soulscar, that's when things get really bad.
That is a combination.
All right, so that's going to be, and that's our first game done over there as well.
Yeah.
So we talked about our game night earlier. If you are looking to get some of our game night art but not be able to make it out to a game night near you, we do have those on sale at StarCityGames.com in our creature collection. Our newest addition to the creature collection is Playing with Fire. That's the 4/4 dragon. You can get it on a playmat and in sleeves, and that's available now along with our previous creatures from the collection. Find them all at StarCityGames.com/creature collection.
Really enjoy looking at these arts. I tend to notice a little bit more every time I look at them. I just noticed that this dragon has seemingly consumed a knight. There's a jousting lance poking out of the dragon's mouth. So I'm firmly in the being terrified of this dragon camp again.
That's cute. Look at that. Look at those big eyes.
It does have those big beady eyes.
That's just what dragons do.
Poor fella didn't know better.
Yeah.
So for game 2, Andrew Jessup will be on the play. Llanowar Elf, quite a bit better in the matchup on the play than the draw. In general, that's just going to be true, but Goblin Chain Whirler, the confounding factor in this matchup.
Well, unless you have 3 woodland cemeteries, then it kind of undoes the mana acceleration. A keep here from Jessup, but Carlos will send it back. Remember, Jessup was on the play that last game. And I think we got a weaker version of the matchup by... kind of like missed that all the lands were tapped, but it does just have that big of an effect.
If he started on Forest and had turn 1 Llanowar Elf instead of turn 2, and turn 2 Sea Leaf Champion instead of turn 3, that might have changed. Well, it certainly changes the texture of the game. I don't know if it swings it enough, as you saw the follow-up there. He had a couple scrap heap scroungers. If those had been in the hand for a while, and the turn 3 was double scrap heap scrounger, that's something. But I mean, the Soulscar Chain Whirler, that slows that down a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Soulscar Chain Whirler still may have been enough. You're right. It makes it interesting. Over another match in Game 1, Sultai Control. Carl Schultz takes the win. We've seen these 3-color Baleful Strix control decks have been a fine answer to Temur Delver.
The unbeatable Strix. The deck is also just heavy on True Name Nemesis.
Yeah,
that one is
nice
tough
card
for Temur Delver for sure.
Now, do you think because Deathrite Shaman is banned, how much Leovold are we really going to be able to see in Legacy? There's 1 copy in this deck, but while Leovold's a powerful card, I did feel like it was kind of a 2-card combo with Deathrite Shaman when on the deck red sheet.
Right, and this is a 4 Noble Hierarch list, and I have to imagine that any list still playing Leovold is also playing Noble Hierarch. You're not really going to see it combined with Delver of Secrets.
Lanrel's on the play this time. It's Blooming Marsh from Andrew Jessup. Much better.
Oh, yeah. Still won't enable Woodland Cemeteries, but...
That's just fine. No turn 2 Steel Leaf. It's turn 2 Attack for 1.
That's worse.
But we'll get Heart of Kiran to go next to the Llanowar Elves.
Okay. If the turn 3 involves crewing the Heart, Jessup's definitely doing his thing.
Sure. Something like a
Brontodon.
Brontodon, or I was going to go Ronus would be a great play here.
Oh, yeah. And both of those make it so it makes sense to curve the Heart into the other.
Yes.
Whereas Steel Leaf Champion just would have been better on the second turn.
Still no place for Fontis. And now we'll see. This was one of the ones that he's Thorn Lieutenant. New card here from M19. Anders added 4 to the main deck. You figure it'll be good in this matchup, actually.
Yeah. If you try to target it, it replaces itself. It's quite a bit better against the mono red deck, you know, if your opponent's packing Earthshaker, Kendra, that sort of thing. But it's fine here.
Good timing. Andrew goes to crew. Carlos, before it becomes a creature, abrades it to destroy a target artifact. Does not want to get hit by Blossoming Defense.
Yeah, that would be unfortunate.
Scrap Heap Scrounger from Fontis and passes back. We've seen Scroungers in both decks in this matchup. A real swingy card. Each time we're seeing the player on the back foot drawing a Scrounger. It's not ideal on either side.
Right. If you're able to supplement it with some good aggressive elements, it connects for a lot of damage. When you're behind, though, it's about the worst card in your deck.
Swing for 3 from Andrew, just from the 2 creatures he already had, and is not able to add anything else to the board. He'll just pass.
Hand must be full of lands and or Blossoming Defense. Maybe a Ghalta stranded. Only 3 power on the battlefield currently. 5 power and or mana shy of executing a Ghalta.
Swing in with Scrounger from Fontis. Andrew down to 14. Make that 17. And now Carlos did hit the land, so it's going to be Chandra Torch of Defiance from Carlos.
If he has a spell to cast, then I would like to plus for mana and just use that. The -3 is not very inviting on either of these creatures.
Yeah, Thorn Lieutenant triggers off spells or abilities, so he'll get a 1/1 regardless.
Right. Yeah, if there's no spell to cast, yeah, I would even consider just exiling the top card for 2 damage.
He will use Lightning Strike. Now, the cool part about Blossoming Defense is that first Andrew can get the 1/1 token, and then if he Blossoming Defenses it, that's just fine. Now, Thorn Lieutenant will hit the bin. Lightning Strike works. But Andrew does get a 1/1 for his trouble. Swing in, both creatures at Chandra. She drops to 3 loyalty. 5th land from Andrew, and a second turn with no play.
I just got to look at the hand. There are 2 Ghaltas.
Yeah, I was going to say, no play on 4, no play on 5 is a bit of a mess. And Carlos may be able to come back through this then. Top card off Chandra shows Hazaret. Sure.
That's a fine one to cast.
And Carlos will cast it.
Bit off of attacking with it, but that's just fine.
Yeah, I agree. So, Scrap Heap Scrounger likely going to hit on in. Andrew to 14.
Jessup's going to need some big spells from this point into the game. Basic Forest was the draw, and that's actually the third card in the hand. He has 2 Galtas, 2 Forests. He's just not doing anything. And if Carlos is able to start attacking with Hazoret in the following turn, he's very quickly going to be able to close. Jessup was really hoping to draw Steel Leaf Champion, Ronus, that kind of thing in the mid-game here. Instead, he's getting flooded on Galtas. I have to imagine the opening hand had at most one of these. When you're looking at 2, then it already feels like a mulligan. Probably may as well go down. But yeah, the hand is just not shaped up here. And from 14, it takes very little time for Chandra and Hazoret to close a game.
Well, I mean, we're just at this point where Andrew's plays aren't mattering. He's passing back. Now, he has enough mana that if he finds a creature, he can almost start to just chain them into Galta on the same turn. But yeah, the hand just really didn't make.
Right. So he currently has 6 lands and 2 power, so he's 4 off of a Galta.
Yeah, Steel Leaf can +2 him there.
Yeah.
So yes, we're still honestly looking at 2 turns away from Galta, even with good draws.
Right. Yeah, even Steel Leaf plus land, you're still 1 off.
And I don't know how many life points he'll have by the time we're 2 turns down the road.
Especially if the Hazoret's able to connect this turn, which it should be able to.
Pia Nalar is the cast from Carlos, plays a land down to 1 card. We're going to get a swing from Scrounger and Hazoret.
Yeah, so this swing would put Jessup down to 4, which is just an activation of Hazoret and an activation of Chandra, which is very easy for Carlos to produce on the following turn. So blocking kind of forced action there.
It has to be a chump block, and Carlos will Fire Breathe the Scrap Heap Scrounger. So 4 damage in. Andrew Jessup down to, I believe, 8. Yeah, he'll get a draw. That's not going to do it, though. 7 mana. Make it 8 with the Llanowar Elves. And against Andrew's bust-up, the Chandra really just did too much work here.
Right.
And Andrew extends the hand. Carlos Fontes takes the first match for his team, 2-0 over Andrew Jessup, which means we look over to the legacy match where Carl Schultz is up a game on Dan Jessup. Carl can pick up the win. That should be at the end of the round.
And this is another matchup where I feel like the Jessup is going to be at a somewhat fundamental disadvantage.
Yeah, we've seen Baleful Strix just do exactly what it's supposed to do. It was difficult for Dan when he played that yesterday. Didn't win that match. And in a tough spot again here.
Right. Yeah, we'll find out where we're at. Ooh, and this is some risky business as we cut to the match in progress. Schultz has already landed a true name Nemesis. Jessup hanging out with Nimble Mongoose and Tarmogoyf. Does have Threshold.
All right, we have Leovold now on the side. Now, life totals here are correct, but true name Nemesis held back as a blocker on this situation.
So this battlefield, it's kind of tied. If you look at True Nemesis, it actually holds off Goyf and Mongoose because it just kills the Mongoose in combat and just can hold the Tarmogoyf. But this Leovold is a huge deal.
Right.
Because your best draws in a situation like this are going to be your Ponders and your Brainstorms. When your opponent has Leovold, those are the worst cards in your deck.
Right, and you see already a Brainstorm from Carl picking up a Fatal Push that can take care of Tarmogoyf.
An Abrupt Decay available as well.
Yeah.
Gets to Wasteland Jessup off this red source as well.
And once a True Name Nemesis is in play, I don't believe Temur Delver can move it off the battlefield.
No, you just don't get cards that do that in these colors.
And Fatal Push will get met by a Spell Pierce. And Noble Hierarch's the next play for Carl. At this point, confident enough with the Exalted that Carl will swing in with True Name Nemesis to knock Dan down to 16.
Yeah, the Leovold makes his position so good.
Dismember, targeting Leovold, Jessup down to 12, and Carl will draw. But all things considered, that works. Ponder from Jan Jessup, now that Leovold's gone.
I will say on Carl's last turn, no attacks and or casting Abrupt Decay instead of Fatal Push both seem better than the actions that he took. Given Dismember being the answer to the Leovold, it does still seem like he's in quite good position.
Yeah, and remember, on top of his deck, he's got Engineered Explosives and an Abrupt Decay in his hand, so still plenty of ways to deal with Dan's threats.
Right.
Now, Ponder from Dan showed Submerge, Lightning Bolt, and Land. At this point, he's got to figure out whether or not that's worth keeping.
None of this stuff does anything about True Name Nemesis. You don't want to point a removal spell at the Noble Hierarch. That's just not worth a card. So he's just kind of thinking about damage output. The Lightning Bolt is the card that you're kind of thinking of. And I suppose the Submerge has sort of a time walk effect. Making Carl redraw the Noble Hierarch can be a big deal.
You could draw Submerge this turn, Submerge the Hierarch, and swing.
Well, you can't draw anything this... Oh, the Leovold's off the table. So you can Submerge, and then you leave the Lightning Bolt behind. I kind of think you just want to attack, and you expect no blocks.
And that is what happened. Get a size check on that Tarmogoyf in a second here. Likely 4/5.
Yeah, most commonly there might be a Baleful Strix in the graveyard. We'll get some confirmation on that shortly. The Goose is certainly thresholded.
Yep, 4/5. Brainstorm from Carl, so he went down to 10 on that attack. Yeah, left the window open for some damage. Now, Engineer Explosives, Abrupt Decay, mentioned those are both there. His Brainstorm shows him as also another Leovold. At this point, he just feels far enough ahead that I really want to pump the brakes from Carl's spot.
Right. The True Name Nemesis is just doing some great work on defense. Attacking with it just seems way overly aggressive.
If you hang out long enough, these removal spells will win the game.
All right, yeah. Now after he did take that hit, he's going to hang back now. True Name Nemesis is on defense.
Great. Draw here from Dan. Draws a land, so that Bolt is still one more down.
And he does need to get the red mana back online to cast it, so that makes sense. And based on what happens in the next turn, he can decide if he wants to leave the Lightning Bolt on top or not.
Yeah, Dan just playing this one well, but just I think he's behind by enough. I'm not sure how much tactical play can get him.
Right. His sideboard does have one copy of True Name Nemesis. That's going to be his best way at breaking through here.
Sure, one of his own, and then he's ahead in the damage race at the moment.
So Jessup elects not to play the land at all, which means that even if he wants to shuffle the Lightning Bolt away, that will not be an option available.
And now I see some aggression from Schultz. Abrupt Decay on the Tarmogoyf.
He could submerge his own Tarmogoyf.
Ooh.
It's gross.
I mean, at this point, if I'm on Carl's spot, I almost want to... How weird is this? I want to attack with Leovold and then leave back True Name as a blocker?
I don't really want to trade with the Nimble Monk. You have the Hierarch. You have the Hierarch. Yeah, so I do like that attack a lot better than the True Name attack.
Game 1 goes to Frank Skarren. In the situation that Dan can come back, that might matter.
Especially because Jessup has no red mana represented right now.
Yeah.
Leovold's quite good. Yeah, I agree. The Leovold attack looks quite a bit better than the True Name.
And that's what Carl's going to do. It exalts up as a 4/4. Not too shabby.
Dan could submerge. It's not worth a lot on a Leovold. Also, what is he really accomplishing if he does that? He doesn't get to crack back with the Nimble Mongoose. Top of the deck is currently Lightning Bolt, so getting the Leovold off the table is not freeing up a Brainstorm or a Ponder.
Yeah, he'll just cast it again.
Yep.
I guess it keeps you ahead in the damage race. But
kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, you still don't get to attack.
He really just needs to find his own True Name.
Yeah. This game definitely feels lost. So I don't know how much these decisions matter, but I would have elected to not submerge there.
Submerges the play. Carl draws an extra card, puts Leovold on top of the deck. The extra card was Engineered Explosives. Carl, no need to do that just yet. He doesn't really feel threatened by the Nimble Mongoose, so he'll pass.
Yeah, the Hierarch's actually doing more work for him than the Mongoose is for Dan.
Now Carl first turn will redraw Leovold. Simple recast. And he's ahead by enough. True Name Nemesis will crack in for 4. Jessup down to 8. At this point, it's a 3-turn clock. It's faster than the clock Jessup has.
That one card in hand for Jessup is that Lightning Bolt.
Okay. Down to 7 for Dan. See Brother Andrew watching on.
Plan for the lightning bolt, I assume, is to take care of this Leovold. But then, you know, you're going from an empty spot. You can attack, and if Karl really cared, he could block with a hierarch.
I don't even know. If you bolt the Leovold here, he will. The issue is that you're just losing the race to True Name Nemesis.
Yeah. I understand the bolt on the Leovold being part of the plan, but now having cast that Submerge on the Leovold previously, it looks even worse, right? Because you could be submerging the Noble Hierarch now and coming across for 3.
Yeah.
Making Karl have a battery draw, making him have no blocks.
Mongoose attacks. Karl actually opts for a chump block. I think that shows that he wants to make Engineered Explosives this turn.
Yeah, that's available, and even just attack with True Name, produce any other creature. He'll have a lethal attack on the following turn.
Yeah, he's drawn a Snapcaster Mage as well.
That's any other creature. Yeah, this one is not difficult to close for Karl.
Plenty of ways for him to get those last points in. Here's Engineer Explosives on 1. He'll say go. And that's ready as an answer for Nimble Mongoose. Because Dan can't remove True Name Nemesis and he hasn't drawn his own, the 2 lands in his hand aren't going to do anything.
Yeah. Just in general, Temur Delver is already not a deck that's interested in a 4th land, much less a 5th.
Karl down to 7 on the attack. Attacks Daniel down to 1. Passes. Dan has 3 lightning bolts. Swing Mongoose. Karl will use Engineered Explosives. Mongoose is gone. Jessup passes. His hand is some blue card and 2 fetch lands. That's not going to do it.
Karl can figure out how to attack with the creature.
He spell snares the Snapcaster Mage on the way out.
Gotta treasure those small victories.
And the True Name Nemesis does it. So Karl Shulz 2-0, and that's a win for him, a win for Carlos Fontes, and that means Ben Schwartz can pick him up. They are the winners of the round.
Yeah, pretty convincing wins in both the standard and the legacy seats there.
Yeah, and so for the metagame gurus, they were